David, would you like to come and join us, and also Jeremiah and Agnes up on the platform so we can have the discussion? Those key words are of sustainable, practical and also partnership. And David, would you like to go to, for your opening remarks, would you like to come up here, Agnes, please? And we also hope to be joined by the President and CEO of Ericsson, one of the large telcos who've been involved in setting up this network, relying on the mobile phone system as well. We'll hear directly from him live from Sweden shortly. David, give us an update. That film obviously was prepared a few days and weeks ago. What is the latest? What are the numbers that you're looking at and the impact?
Thank you. Royal Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with just a few general comments to remind you of the problem. As Mr. Annan and Madame Carl-Henric have said, that the world's facing many challenges due to climate change, climate variability and extreme weather events. And not the least is our inability to interpret how climate affects us on a regional, local scale. This is at the heart of the problem that we are trying to solve with the Weather Information for All project. It's increasingly difficult to know what to plant, how to determine whether a malaria intervention strategy is correct, or whether an irrigation project will continue to provide water in the future. And at the heart of this problem is the absence of sufficient basic meteorological information. It's a really very simple problem. We just don't have enough data on the temperature of the air, its humidity, the winds and rainfall. These are needed to really understand how the environment is changing at a local scale. We need to improve our local weather forecasts and to improve the information needed for seasonal and longer-term forecasting. And nowhere is this more apparent than in Africa, where the basic meteorological observations are limited and the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services, or the NMHSs, the organizations with the principal responsibility for national weather and climate information, are hampered in their ability to provide even the most rudimentary weather and climate services. And as we've seen, a year ago, Mr. Annan launched the Weather Information for All initiative. And I want to just touch on three core elements of that, the three important things that we should bear in mind with it. It involves the National Meteorological Services. This is extremely important because they have the authority, if not the capacity, to provide national weather and climate information. They're the authoritative voice for weather information in their countries. It involves a novel new partnership between the public and private sector through the cooperation of the telecommunication industry, the World Meteorological Organization, the Global Humanitarian Forum and others. And through the Global Humanitarian Forum, there is the capacity to implement a solution to help build national partnerships between the NMHSs and the users of weather and climate information. What I'd like to do is emphasize what's really special about the initiative. The ability to use cell phone towers to support meteorological observations is truly innovative. They provide all of the ingredients needed to effectively support automatic weather stations across the continent. Uninterrupted power supply, a secure site, the capacity to transmit data using local cell phone service providers, and the capability to maintain the system, something that we've lacked up until now. The fact that we can partner national cell phone companies such as Zain with meteorological services may actually transform the way weather and climate information is acquired and distributed, allowing the national services to focus more on the delivery of those services to farmers, the health sector, and others who need this kind of information, rather than focusing on the routine of data gathering responsibility. The network also provides new opportunities to use these data. They can support the development of insurance strategies to reduce the financial impact of weather-related hazards, which can otherwise devastate the livelihoods of subsistence farmers, or the data can be used to enhance a disease surveillance system. Where we are now, the project has two phases. The first phase, which has just been completed, is the proof of concept. The limited number of automatic stations built by Fairmont Weather Systems, specifically for the WEFA project to the WMO standards, have been deployed in the Lake Victoria region of Uganda, Tanzania and Kenya. The automatic weather stations were installed at Ericsson cell tower installations. Zain, the local cell phone company, provides the capacity to transmit the data to the local national meteorological and hydrological services. Their staff can validate the data, make it part of the national forecasting system, and in partnership with Zain can retransmit those data to cell phone customers in addition to making those data available more widely. The second phase of the project will roll out systems to complete the installation of a total of about 490 stations in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi and Rwanda. Thereafter, the intention is to roll out across the entire continent with a total of about 5,000 stations deployed over the next decade. Beyond the tangible deployment of meteorological sensors, the project also plays an important role as a catalyst to help provide cooperation between users and providers of weather and climate information. This is particularly important. It's not just about providing data, it's really about helping people understand how to use the information. Utilizing weather and climate information effectively depends increasingly on decision tools developed jointly by the users and the meteorologists and climate scientists who provide the data. By encouraging the development of the national consortia to make best use of the new WIFA data, the Global Humanitarian Forum, the WMO, Ericsson, Zain and its other WIFA partners are sowing the seeds of a common public service platform leading to better decisions and better social and economic outcomes. And I would like to say just in closing here that to invite you to visit the Weather Information for All display, which is in the WIFA zone outside here. Thank you very much.
David, thank you very much. President Health and Climate Foundation, also the former Chief Executive of the UK Met Office and a Senior Advisor to WIFA. Thank you for those details. We're also joined by Agnes Kijazi from Tanzania, from the Tanzania Meteorological Agency. Welcome. And also Jeremiah Lengoasa, welcome, from the World Meteorological Organization, to give a clear understanding of what has been achieved so far. And I hope we're going to be joined from Sweden as well by the President and Chief Executive of Ericsson. David, let me just pick up on one issue, if I may. What kind of obstructions, what kind of problems do you see? Have you faced any so far, including the basics of how well the equipment works and whether people try and pinch it?
Well, I think a key issue is whether this...
Microphone, please.
I think a key issue has been just to create a partnership between communities that otherwise are not natural partners. To be able to get the public sector to work effectively with the private sector is no easy task. I think that's perhaps the first obstacle that has been overcome, to create a sense of cooperation rather than distrust, which has been always an element of the public sector trying to work with the private sector. So that's been a huge step forward in the project.
And do you see problems at the moment, major challenges, just practical and also political?
I think the problem is getting the idea of a new way of delivering observations is a challenge. It's a challenge absolutely everywhere, not just limited to Africa. The ability to, in the past, meteorological services have been the organizations which have owned and operated their observing networks. Today we're saying that there are other ways of doing this in partnership that will exploit the enormous capacity that exists in the private sector and in the telecommunication industry in particular to utilize their capacity to support these efforts. And that's a challenge and a huge opportunity.
Carl-Henric Svanberg, I hope you can hear us. Sitting here in Geneva, I can see you nodding, which means you are hearing us. Can you just stand by for the moment, because I just want to get some reflections on the practical side of this, particularly from Agnes Kijazi. Your experience so far in Tanzania, given that you have some of the 19 stations which are up and running, what's your reading so far about how it's working and the impact it's making?